For lesson 6, we're going to take a look at mask. Masks are a great thing to use whenever you're working in Photoshop that is non-destructive. So in the past, up until now, every time we were doing something and we needed to cut out an area, we had to erase it and it was permanent. With using mask, you can create these almost like a layer that goes over it, and it's going to hide what you don't want to show instead of deleting what you don't want to show. That way, if you make a mistake or change your mind or want to fix something, you can go back and do that and bring it back, where before, if once you erased it, it was erased. Okay, so again, we're going to walk through this. I'm going to show you an example. You can follow along with my example. You're going to find your own images, use your own images. We're going to create kind of a little fantasy world. So just follow along with me, and then you can go through again if you need to and do your own. So I'm going to switch over to Photoshop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create it. I'm going to open. This time I'm going to work directly on one of my files, so I'm just going to open the images I need. What I'm going to do is create a bottle full of ocean in a desert. So what I'm going to use is this bottle. This is the ocean scene that will go inside of the bottle. This is the actual background that we're going to use. So we're going to put it into this desert, and then once I'm done, I'm going to crop it down a little bit. And then I'm going to put a doorway into it so you could almost walk into the other world, okay? One of the things I usually do is if I know I'm going to be working in a specific image as my background image, that's this one, I'm going to drag it kind of over and put it first on my top panel just so I can go back and forth to it a lot easier. So I have this one here. I'm going to open up my bottle next. So I'm going to do Control-All, Control-Copy, and Control-Paste and get it set up in here. Now, I'm going to use my object selection tool. This one is a lot of colors close to each other, but they're still different enough that it can select out most of the bottle. I'm going to zoom in on it so I can see the bottle a little bit clearer. Come off of it. And you can see that it made a pretty good selection around it. It has selected a little extra down here at the bottom, but I will not be needing that because it's going to be hiding behind this mound of dirt over here, the mound of sand. So I'm just going to use my quick select tool and press Alt and just kind of get rid of some of the bottom of this. And I did a little too much. So I'm going to Control Z and just go off a little bit of it. I will get rid of more of that using the mask, and so I don't have to worry about it being perfect. It's wanting to select too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like it is. Now, when we select the mask, all we have to do is whatever is selected is what will stay from the mask. So I'm going to come over here. The bottle is going to stay on the screen. I'm going to click this little square with the circle in it, and it leaves just my bottle. Now, the great thing about a mask I'm going to show you is I'm going to make a copy of this only so that I don't ruin the first one by mistake. But I have this bottle, and let's say, I wanted to erase some of this down at the bottom. I can grab my paintbrush tool, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on it. I can grab that paintbrush tool. I can come down here and go over to the layer itself and click on the thumbnail for the mask. So you can see in here, the little white part is the bottle that's still showing. The black is everything that's hidden. So I can come over here and grab my paintbrush tool, change my front color to black, and I can just go back and I can make any touch-ups that I want. Now, the nice thing about this is you can also, with the side of these bottles, they're very straight lines. So I could come down here and you can see that my edge is a little rough. So I could do this, make a straight line here, draw out a selection, use my black paintbrush inside of that selection, clean up that edge. And then because it is a little bumpy, I'm going to go ahead and do select and inverse. change my color to white and do the opposite side, the inside of the bottle, right along there. And then if I Control D, you can see I have this nice clean line. So I can always go back and clean it up. And you can use any of the selection tools if you want to create that little guide so you don't go too far one way or the other. Or you can just simply do it by hand and, like I just did and like made it a little bit rougher. But you can go back and kind of clean it up. So the best example I can always show you guys of this is if I take this and I'm in my mask and I take my black paintbrush and I do this. So now I've erased or hidden that part of it, and I can simply go back and put it back just by painting with white. So black and white are going to be your two main colors. You can choose a gray and do it, and it's going to give you that almost like you're messing with the opacity kind of feel on it. But it does work for certain things if you're doing it and you need to. Now, I just noticed a little thing right here. I'm going to go back over to my bottle and I'm going to select these two little areas that are right there and do select. Nope, I need it on that one. That's right. I'm going to grab my paintbrush and the black. Whoops. Now, if you do what I just did and you don't select the mask, you're actually painting on the photograph itself. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that. There we go. Cleaned up that a little bit. Also clean up the edge of this bottle. For some reason, it selected a little bit better out this time than it did when I did it earlier. So I can just clean up my edges. There we go. There you go. So you can kind of see what you've done. And if you want to, you can make any adjustments to it. I can sit here and play with these things all day because I'd like to have my edges completely cleaned off. There we go. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to this other side just because it's pretty rough. I'm going to draw a straight line down this side. And make sure I'm on that. I am. Grab my black, paint right here, select an inverse. Now I'll do white inside the bottle. Boom, and there it is. Okay, so my selection's a little bit cleaned up now. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out. I'm actually going to get rid of this original layer that I had made because I don't need it anymore. Okay, so now I have this bottle. And what I want to do is I want to put that C in it. And it doesn't matter if like the bottle's in place. You can go ahead and place this bottle exactly where you want it, all of that type of stuff. I'm going to leave it right here where it's at for right now, and I'll just put the C inside of it. So I'm going to go and find my C image, and I Control A, Control C. I'm going to go back over to my bottle, Control V, make sure that's on top. And then I'm going to Control T, and I'm going to lower my opacity to make sure it goes into the bottle where I want it to go into the bottle. And I'm just going to kind of grab one of my anchor points and start dragging it in. And I don't want this to go all the way up. I want it to kind of stop before it gets to the top of the bottle. And then I'm going to go back later and kind of give a little curve to it so it looks like it's inside the bottle. So right about like that. I want my coral to kind of go along that side because when I tilt my bottle to stick it out of the hill, it looks kind of neat that like all the rocks fell to one side. And I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to push my opacity back up. Now, the really nice thing about this is we've already done our mask. We don't need to do it again. So you're going to press and hold Alt, then click on that mask and just drag it up, and it automatically makes it fit to that bottle. Okay, and I can make the change to it. I can, do the final touches on it in a little bit and make it fit to the bottle even better. Then we're going to take this layer copy 1, and I'm going to make a copy of it. Now, you don't always need to do this, but with this being glass, I want to see those reflections on the bottle a little bit on the outside of the bottle. Right now, it looks like a flat image, and I want to have that reflection of the bottle. So this is one of the best, not best, but one of the easiest ways of doing that. As you take that bottle, you put it back on top, and you change your blend mode. So I'm going to change my blend mode to multiply, and you can see that really well through there. You can see some of those highlights, some of those shadows on there. And it makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional, like you can see the bottle itself. And again, if you don't like how dark it is up here now, you simply grab your paintbrush, click on your mask, and we can make it so that, change it to black paint. We can make it so that it doesn't show on the whole bottle. It just shows over that water. So now my cork and everything's back to its original color. Okay, so that's another option you can do. And again, I'm going to make even more touches to this. I'm just going to wait until I get it over here and behind the sand before I do that. So I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. Now for this part, what I'm going to do is I need to adjust all three of these. So I'm going to select the first one, press and hold shift, and select the bottom one. And now I can do Control T, and it's going to affect all of them. And I can kind of twist it, and I can move it over here so it looks like it's sticking out of the sand. There we go. So now it'll look like it's sticking out of the sand a little ways, and I can kind of zoom in on it. And what I want to do is I want to make it so that this hill right here, this bottle is behind that hill. I'll move it up even just a little bit more. Okay, so the best way to do this is to close these two top layers and just have your bottle open. Select only the bottle and kind of fade it out so I can see it. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to grab my paintbrush again in black, and I'm going to make sure my thumbnail is selected on that layer 1. And I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger. I'm going to keep it a little hard because I want it to follow that shape. And I'm going to actually freehand it. Now, if you don't trust yourself to freehand, that's completely okay. Use one of your selection tools, select out the area. You can see I'm bumping just a little bit, but I can go back and fix those as I want to. Okay, there. Bonuses, mine is sand. It works really well in grass too sometimes, because if you mess up, nobody knows the difference because there's bumps and grooves and everything in both of them. Okay, so there we go. And then I can color over the rest of the sand with black. And now I'm sitting slightly behind that sand. So if I turn on my other layer, you can see that now my masks don't match. So what I'm going to have to do is press and hold Alt and click this bottom mask and drag it up and drop it. Replace mask? Yes. And then do it one more time. Select this one, drag it up, drop it. Yes. So now, if I turn them all on and I go out, it kind of looks like my bottle's sticking out of the sand. Okay, it needs some shadowing work and stuff like that, but it does have that feel that it's actually sticking out of the sand. Now let's fix the top of this. Because I copied the actual one at the top up here, what I want to do is I'm going to close this top layer. Well, actually, I'll leave it open. I'm going to work on this mask for layer 1. So I'm going to grab my paintbrush, and I kind of want it to feel like it's pulling to one side because it is tipping a little bit. So I'm going to like kind of make this so that it's not perfectly even, so that it looks like it's pouring a little bit. Now, another thing you can do is you can come along this edge on this layer, and you can kind of come through and do this to it. And what that's going to do is it's going to give it a little bit that glass look. Now, just remember, like, the glass has a thickness to it. So you're going to have a little bit of glass that may not have that blue tint to it, just because the color is going to stop along the edge of the glass. So I'm going to do that to it. Same thing on the other side. How picky you get on this is going to be up to you. These masks, I just want you to play with them because they're a great thing to have where, you know, you can play with them and you don't have to worry about the fact that, oh, if I erase this and I change my mind later, it's going to affect something. You can also do this, which would make it even easier than what I'm trying to do. You can draw out how thick you want that glass to be. and then come back with your paintbrush and get rid of it and have that nice clean line. And like I said earlier, I didn't like the way how dark it made my top. So because we copied our mask over here, what it did was it just made it so that it completely put it back into place. So now I'm going to go on this one and do the same thing. I'm just going to lighten this along here. And I have to come back down to this first layer. That's why it looks a little silly. I had to come back down to that first layer and kind of darken the, there we go. And control minus. And now you can come out and you can kind of see it. Okay, so you're going to kind of play with those masks, get them the way you want them to look. The last thing I wanted to do is I wanted to make this into more of a little bit of a fantasy world. I want to add this door frame in. So I'm going to Control A, Control C, so that if somebody was coming along to this place and they saw this bottle, could actually walk into it. So I'm going to put that at the top. I'm actually going to have to zoom out. I only want the door. Now, another way of selecting something is you can use the select color range. And I want to pick just the red here. So you can come up to select and color range and select just the red. Then you can play with its fuzziness right here and be able to select as much of it as possible. And the more white is the more it's going to select, and hit OK. And then I can come in here and make any changes that didn't get selected. Just like this, so I can select the inside of that door. And then again, create a mask around it. Control T. And I can size that door down a little bit and make it look like, you know, you can walk into this bottle. And since my bottle is crooked, I can even twist the door a little bit if I wanted to. Now, one of the things with this, make it look like the bottle's falling over, I can pull this down here, and I want it to fall, I want that line of the sand. I don't want the door to be kind of weird and be somewhere it's not supposed to be. So what I'm going to do is I'll put my doorway right about here. And again, if you want to make little adjustments, you can use your arrows. And on this mask, then I can select this, move that in there, set it. I can grab this mask right here. So Control and click on the mask and see you can have the mask pop up. I can come back up to this mask, select an inverse, and be able to paint over that door so it looks like the door is stuck down in the sand as well. Okay, so it's just really playing with these masks and doing painting on with black, or to make it go away using black, to make it come back you use white. Just kind of keep playing back and forth with it. Just make sure you're on the actual mask to get it to work. You have to have this little picture frame and just get it to look the way you want it. Then you're going to crop it down. I'm doing 8.5 by 11 again. You can crop it to whatever size you want this time. And get it to where it looks like you're going into this little fantasy world. And I'm going to hit the check mark. And so here is my little fantasy world that somebody can go in. So you're walking through the desert and you go into the ocean. Okay. Again, save it as a PSD, then flatten and save it as a JPEG, turn that JPEG into me. I would like you to use multiple images for mine. I have 4 different images I used. So use some multiple images, create at least a couple of masks to kind of create this world. And I just want you to play with the fantasy aspect. I will show you a couple other examples of this project just so you can have somewhere to start. we do something like it in my 120 class, the multimedia class, and this is what this image actually looks like. So they, do the same thing with the flowers. You're going to walk into this little world of water. So that's a good example, the mountains and this little island here. I also found, just looking for some ideas, I found a whole bunch of ideas. So like we have the guy standing on a giant Coke can, or, you have this sky fantasy world inside of the earth and the mountains. And here's a shoe, somebody walking into the shoe. You don't necessarily have to do glass, but glass is kind of one of those fun ones to kind of play with right now, since you have just learned blend modes and you can lay them out themselves. Okay, so here is my concept. Have fun, play with it, be creative. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and we will get you some answers to them.